The working livestock is what I really enjoy doing. At the core of my being, I enjoy working with animals. When I read about the grass-fed model, it made sense, because under that system, you're farming conventionally, but you're trying to do it without all the tools that conventional farmers use. This is an entirely different system of farming. We're leaving the cows outside. We have just taken away all the problems that the antibiotics and the chemicals were put in there to fix. Cows are such an important part of the ecosystem, but it's all driven by the consumer. As long as they keep buying the cheap meat out of the supermarket, my style of farming dies.
Industrialized farming. It's one of the leading causes of climate change. It's no hidden secret that a rise in greenhouse gas emissions is warming the global temperature, with methane and nitrous oxide taking the lead, and carbon dioxide trailing closely behind. So when searching for a sustainable alternative, we hear a lot about the plant-based diet as a way to help the earth take a moment to breathe. But what if we had an increase of natural farmers instead? A higher percentage of no-tillage and natural reseeding would store the excess greenhouse gas while keeping our soils rich and rebalancing our ecosystems. Plus, the meat we'd consume would do wonders for our health. No more grains, no more antibiotics, no more chemicals, no genetically modified beef. At a farm in Ontario, Brad tested that theory, and it worked.
Hi, I'm Brad Martin. I'm the owner of Echo Valley Ranch, and today I just want to give you a behind-the-scenes look at what we do at Echo Valley Ranch, and maybe more importantly, why we do what we do at Echo Valley Ranch.
In Brad's early years of farming, he'd grown used to conventional farms and never questioned their methods, not until the outbreak of the mad cow disease.
We export 50% of our beef to other countries. Everybody stopped taking our beef because we had a mad cow. And so you can imagine the meat just piled up here. So that $2,000 animal was now worth maybe $120. And unlike stocks and bonds where you can just sit on it and wait for the market to turn around, we're feeding them every day, we're spending money every day keeping them alive, so eventually they have to go, and then that equity is, so for every 100 head you had, if you lost $1,800 on each animal, that's 180 grand, that's just gone.
Conventional cattle farming puts the cows in a confined feedlot where the animals are fattened with a diet consisting of nutrients the cows should not consume. Things like corn, soy, grains, hormones, and drugs, not to mention it's one of the leading sources of pollution in many countries.
So conventional farming has just put a lot of steps in between. So rather than the sun makes the grass grow, the cow eats the grass, we eat the cow, we've now put the cow in an artificial environment, and we're out harvesting the feed, we're taking it to the cow, we're taking the manure, the nutrients back out on the field again. We've put a lot of fossil fuel in between there to accomplish the same thing. And the reason we've done it is because fossil fuels have been cheap enough. We could replace labor with fossil fuels. So now rather than you being out there tending 100 head of cattle, you can build a barn with 1,000 head of cattle and you can still manage it by yourself because you have technology, you have equipment, and diesel fuel is providing the labor. Nature controls populations through disease and starvation. So the idea of animal husbandry is to maintain a herd that fits within its given environment. So I have 110 acres to work with. I have to maintain a herd that can sustain itself on 110 acres. We only harvest the excess for meat, and then so the base herd keeps reproducing. And so that excess from the herd that I'm harvesting then goes out to feed the people who aren't growing their own food.
A lot of farmers and consumers might find themselves wondering if this method is even safe. Brad proved it was.
One of the more interesting observations was the first year we left our cattle outside for the winter. My assumption was growing up, always having cattle in the barn is that's the best place for them to be. But we always had a percentage of cattle that had respiratory problems in the barn. So when I moved them outside, my thinking at the time was I will have more respiratory problems because now they're out in the cold, they're out in the wind, they're out in the rain. I was a little apprehensive, how is this really going to work? Until I sat down and I realized that wildlife is out there every day and they've been surviving just fine. So we moved the cows outside, and to my surprise, we had not one cow with respiratory disease the whole winter. So now we have to learn, how do we work with cattle? How do we convince the cow to go where we want her to go rather than where she wants to go? So the skill set changed. But for me, I enjoyed the process because I had always enjoyed working with the animals, and this allowed me to do more of it and become better at it and to understand the animals better.
What is carbon sequestration? It's the process of capturing and storing atmospheric carbon dioxide with the goal of reducing global climate change. In the case of natural farming, the growing grass absorbs carbon out of the atmosphere and is released again when the plant dies. When plowing, however, the carbon dioxide stored in the soil is continuously released, making tillage a large source of climate change.
The cow has a rumen, which is a great big fermentation vat. So she ferments it and she's able to break that fiber down and extract energy from it. So in the spring, when the cow comes out and she deposits her manure, she's also seeding the soil back with the soil life. So she is the keeper of soil life, if you will, over the dormant season of the soil. So if you're looking at it from a carbon sequestering point of view, when we have green growing grass, it's absorbing carbon out of the atmosphere. When the plant dies, it releases it back again. When you plow, all that carbon you stored in the soil is released. The tillage is a major source of adding to the carbon load. Cows are such an important part of the ecosystem. If we just took the cows off of here and just let it go natural, by now this grass would all be brown and dead and oxidizing and putting carbon back in the air. The other thing that they're very good at is they are good at taking land that is not suitable for farming and turning it into food as well.
Now, the cows aren't the only heroes in this story. Portable hen houses typically follow the cow, as the cows graze the grass short. 3 days later, the chickens are moved to the pasture to feed on the fly larva. Now, Brad waits 3 days to ensure the fly eggs hatch and allow the larva to grow. In a natural setting, birds follow herbivores. The herbivorous manure attracts the flies who lay their eggs, and the birds will follow to eat that larva. By recreating the natural process, the chickens eat a natural diet and the fly population is kept in check. As machines and technological tools are used to till the soil, it also causes erosions, which leads to a leak of chemical substances entering into the soil that grows our crops and affect our food and water. So, with the carbon sequestration method, the cows act as a natural plower, fixing up the land that's not suitable for farming. Between the bacteria, enzymes, and protozoa stored in the manure, it reseeds the soil and helps plants flourish, giving the cows the right consumable nutrients and giving us better and healthier meat in the process.
Interestingly enough, when we back off on the force, when we become softer, when we work with them, when we become better at reading their body language, and we just work at the very edge of their flight zone, and we take the stress off the animal, at the end of the day, we have a calmer animal and we have tastier, tenderer meat because of it. Adrenaline, stress toughens up your meat in a real hurry. So not only is the cow more relaxed, I'm more relaxed, but it's a better eating experience for the customer.
This is where natural farming changes the game. Every day, Brad is moving fences up to open new pasture for the cows to graze. Once the herd finishes grazing in a paddock, they're moved to a new area. This is done to ensure that the entire pasture is eaten and it reduces imbalances in their diet and on the field. This is what we call intensive grazing. This system makes sure the entire paddock is cleaned up. If the cows had access to a large open field, they would eat the sweet bits of grass and leave the plaguing weeds, which would then begin to destroy the land. The thing is, the weeds contain nutrients like sulfur and minerals that are important to a cow's diet and helps balance out the nitrogen the cows consume and the carbon they release. Factory farming also requires large amounts of energy in order to function. This isn't just to rear the animals, but also to grow the vast amounts of feed they need. The livestock in these factories actually produce 37% of methane and 65% of nitrous oxide emissions globally. And both these gases are much more potent than carbon dioxide, so of course, the natural farming method helps reduce that. Natural farming is not the only solution to restore our home, but it is another piece to the puzzle. At least we would be able to eat that burger with pride, knowing we're doing a little more to help the planet.